Coming up in this episode of Finding Common Ground.
You know, as we've seen, when you bring in economic development and other things, people are going to, including the city, are going to invest.
I could hit a golf ball between the Aldi on Battleground, the Lidl on Pisgah Church, the Fresh Market there. Yeah. You're saying you don't have enough business or whatever?
The inequity has cost us. In particular, my mother was just misdiagnosed going to the hospital when I was a little boy, and she had a stroke, and they sent her home saying it's not a stroke. So when people say, why are you so committed to this medical office building? I'm just trying to make sure other families didn't go through what I'm going through.
There are two sides to every coin.
How do we deal with racial issues when they affect relationships?
Finding common ground on all those issues that we come against.
There's black and there's white.
And I think as Christians, we have to learn how to get together because we're not in heaven.
I've met more interesting people just by God just bringing them in.
Republicans and Democrats.
But a lot of times when it comes to race and it comes to culture and it comes to perception, even as Christians, we don't always understand. We look at it through our lenses.
There's Bill.
I grew up in a suburb of Cleveland called Parma.
Any black people in Parma?
There was not one.
Not one black person,
Not
Bill?
one.
Come on,
Not
Bill.
one.
You got to have one. Token black person? A token?
And there's Odell.
I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, public housing, single mom, divorced single mom of 4 kids. And I came up through segregation and all that kind of stuff.
If a black person drove through the town, the police would stop and escort him out.
Bill and Odell are finding common ground.
A part of what we have to do is listen to each other, find the common ground, and question, not questioning you like you're on a witness stand, but questioning you for a better understanding. Father God, we just come to you today in the precious name of Jesus Christ. We just want to say thank you for your grace and mercy. We thank you for this great country that we live in, that we call America. Not perfect, God, not perfect. History states that countries have their reign, some longer than others, but at the same time, we just say, bless us and keep us and cover us. In your son's name we pray and believe. Amen.
Heavenly Father, I just thank you for today. Thank you for this beautiful weather we're having. Thank you that, it's a Monday and we're all feeling that. And thank you for Bill being able to get down and cover the class. And now I get to fill in for him on the podcast. Just pray that you would bless our conversation and that we would bring you glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well, just want to welcome everybody. We have a couple special guests on the show today. We have Andy Zimmerman. We all know Andy. He's been here before, a powerful developer in Greensboro. But the special person is Dori Goebel. Dori is the better half of Bill and Dori. She looks better. She sounds better. She is better. So, Dori, welcome to the show.
I don't know how much I'm better, but I'm just different.
She's better. Okay. So, Andy, a lot's been going on. We had the Maverick, Marty Kotis, on the show last week. And since that time, Marty just won a $52 million land case settlement with the federal government over the Greensboro Greenway. So maybe, just maybe, you come on our show and you win a $52 million settlement. So do you have anything in the hopper that after this show, you're going to report back, Odell, hey, I just hit the $50 million settlement. What's going on with you, sir?
Well, you'll hear it. Believe me, if I do win that settlement. I guess that's called the lottery ticket, maybe.
You'll share it with us.
We know what the chances of that are.
Well, that piece of property on the corner of South Elm and Gate City Boulevard, you know, you've put a lot of time, energy, and effort in that. Tell us all about that and why. What's your why behind that piece of property, sir?
So when I first started developing downtown Greensboro, it was Lewis Street, which is about 3 blocks over from Gates, actually 2 blocks over from Gate City Boulevard, right on Elm Street. And I had pretty much bought and developed all but 2 buildings. I take that back. 1 building on Lewis Street, which is now called the Quarter. And so when I finished developing Lewis Street, I wanted to create a neighborhood feel, a district feel of entrepreneurship and innovation with the Forge, which we did.
Good job.
With Transformed GSO.
Good job.
Which we did. And there were no more buildings to do other things. And so I called Betty Cohn up, and she owned the old mill on the corner of Gate City and Elm Street, and said, Betty, my name's Andy Zimmerman, and if you're ever interested in selling your building, would you let me know? And Betty said, I've heard your name. I like your work. I'll let you know if I'm ever interested. So to fast forward, about 6 months later, I get a call from Betty, and Betty said, Andy, you still interested? I said, sure. When do you want to talk? She said, what are you doing now?
Okay, that sounds like Betty.
And it was right on the next block over. And I went and talked to her. I knew what the tax value was, kind of knew what the real value was, which was more than the tax value. And said, Betty, I've been thinking about it a lot. And I forget what the exact number was, but I offered her, I think it was $50,000 less than what she was asking, right there on the spot, that first meeting. And she said, I think that's fair. And we made that deal.
Now, we talking about millions of dollars. Just for the listening audience, a couple millions of dollars.
$3,750,000, I think.
$3,750,000. What's a 50,000 here, 50,000 there?
Well, and then put probably $10 million in the building.
Wow.
Yep. And outgrew or overshot what I thought could happen in that building. And so there's one company that has 215 employees on the top floor. They have about 55,000 square feet. And then on the next floor down is the event space. And thank you, by the way, for coming to that event.
Yes,
and
it was
then
great.
And then there's Transformed GSO, which has 50 offices in that building. And then I've got independent entrepreneurs down on the first floor. And so in overshooting what I ever dreamed would get in the building, I also overpopulated and didn't have enough parking in the building. So I started looking all around, where's the next opportunity for parking? And actually that happened when David Parrish was city manager. And in order to attract the 215 employees into the building, we had to supply them with some parking.
Right.
And David Parrish came up with a creative way on that property right across the street, which I want to develop now.
Well, question for you, Dori. Dori, you went to the state of downtown DGI and you saw, Andy down there, and you are a business person and you're with the community connectors, and we all understand the importance of the economic hub of downtown. What questions will you have for Andy, Dori?
Wow, now I'm on the spot. I got to be a podcast host. Well, in that state of downtown meeting the other day, there was a lot of talk about attracting people to come downtown. There's something like, I know I'll get the number wrong, 29,000 people down there all day, every day, working.
Yeah, that
Roughly.
Mostly all go home at night.
Yes, that then leave and go home. And there's a much lower number that lives in downtown.
Correct.
They talked a lot about the goal of having 10,000 people live downtown.
That was more a goal for city manager to create more apartments and housing because of all the new jobs that are being created.
Right.
So it wasn't only downtown.
In the whole
For the
of the city
10,000,
of
that's
Greensboro?
the whole city of Greensboro.
Oh,
that
okay.
they're
So
trying
all
to.
the way out here to where
That's correct.
to where I live.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
It came across as they want 10,000 people to live downtown. That's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. Yeah.
At least that's what I took away from it. Sorry if I heard it wrong. Obviously, I did. How do they propose, or what do you think is the path to increasing the number of people they do want to increase the number of people that live downtown.
Correct.
And since you're developing, you're a big developer of downtown, what do you think of their proposed plan, and how do you think it will work? Do you have suggestions to make it better? I'm sure
I've been part of a few committees to help decide directions and ideas and thoughts on making downtown more vibrant and making it a place where more people want to go. And so there's great ideas on the table. And is it the chicken or the egg? Do you want to create more places that people want to come down, even if they don't live downtown, and spend their time downtown? And you definitely want more people living downtown, because that's what's going to support what one of the oppositions, the big opposition to my project is, we want a grocery store.
Yep.
And grocery stores are only going to go in areas where the numbers work, period, end of sentence. I mean, I want to win the lottery, and the chances might be equal right now getting a grocery store downtown. I hate to be that matter of fact about it, but it is a fact. I think we create more people living downtown, create more vibrancy downtown, and a grocery store will come. Know that Winston-Salem has a lot more people living downtown than we do. And there's cranes right now building more apartments. Just went to the groundbreaking this morning of Roy Carroll's new project, which is going to add hundreds of new apartments living downtown. So that's great. Where I want to create that vibrancy is on the other side of town.
Right.
And create that vibrancy. If you look at my plan, there's a mix of apartments, moving the Forge there, which now has over 400 members.
Wow.
It's amazing the community that's created, and the small businesses that have been created out of there. At any rate, I think that there's a lot of good ideas out on the table. We need more people living downtown, and we need cool things to attract more people to come downtown.
So what is your plan? My apologies for missing your announcement. What is your plan for that area?
So the Redevelopment Commission owns the property, and there's certain guidelines that have to be followed for that property. And one of the guidelines is creating some apartments. And, they don't like using affordable anymore. Right. The words are workforce development. So teachers and firemen and policemen can afford to live there if they want to.
Right.
And just anybody, general public. But workforce development housing, I think it's 56 units that I want to build. And room for more. But phase one would include infrastructure for parking for the area, which the city on the south side has one surface parking area with about 20 spaces. And thousands of others are on the other side of the railroad tracks. Right. So the city's not provided any public parking down on the south end where all of the nightlife and activity is at night. And, there's a couple of private lots that are owned, and they do very well for what they offer, but the city doesn't offer anything. I'm trying to offer that to help with other people that need parking, with my developments that need parking, with the Forge that'll need parking, with apartments that'll need parking. But it'll be a community development, and with a lot of surface area and covered area to have farmers markets and have makers fairs and craft fairs. We really want to activate the space, and we really want to be part of Old Asheboro, which is an historic Black neighborhood that really needs some loving.
Yeah.
Needs some new sidewalks that I'm not sure why haven't been replaced in a long time. But, as we've seen, when you bring in economic development and other things, people are going to, including the city, are going to invest in things that need that investment.
Sorry, how many acres?
I think it's
what's the area?
A little bit larger than 3 acres.
Okay.
Well, one thing, Andy, what's the opposition? If this is your goal, you have to go through city planning, you have to go to city council, you have to go through neighborhood meeting. What's your opposition to doing what you think? So you believe that you have a X amount of chance of getting this done. And on a scale of 1 to 10, How do you feel where you are now, and can you get to 10? Cross the finish line.
Yeah, Odell, you said earlier, I've been working on this project for years. Lidl backed out 3 years ago, I think. Maybe it was 2 years ago, but they held the property for 3 years. And before that, I made a pitch for the property. It didn't pencil out. The challenge in this area is, and it's not only that area, it's Greensboro. When you look at apartment builders, it's tough for those investments to pencil out because we don't get the rents that Raleigh does or Durham does or Chapel Hill or Charlotte does. It's growing a little bit, but with development costs have gone up and with material costs have gone up and labor gone up, it's hard to make a deal pencil out. With that said, I think it will be an incredible neighborhood. It'll be a great asset for the neighborhood. And I forgot what your question is. What are the chances, Odell?
Yes.
Keep my head down, plow forward, make it happen. I think I have city council majority of votes.
Okay.
I think that the redevelopment commission's going to hear my project. The new one that I'll propose to them in another month, because tomorrow night's the next redevelopment meeting that's once a month, and I'll go in June, make my pitch, and I think there's enough noise out there that's at least going to say, let the city council decide, because that's where the decision lies.
Do you think some of the infrastructure dollars may be available to help mitigate some of the costs? Because, and this is the reason I say that, in so many cases, an employer from out of town is wooed by Greensboro,
right.
Zach and his crew, whomever.
Yep.
And that's fine. And we do so many incentives. Is there any incentives for the local people who've been here for a long time? And that's not throwing shade. That's just a question.
Yep.
Have anybody offered you incentives to do better here?
I've got a redevelopment grant that the city gave me when I attracted Boxcar to town to replace the Lotus Lounge. And also I used some of that money for the Forge. I got a redevelopment grant, it was a redevelopment grant that had to do with jobs from the state of North Carolina. I'm not looking for city money with this project. Now, there could be city money if the city wanted to invest and own the parking. In the form of a parking deck, or what are we talking about? Partial deck, because
what is a partial deck?
I don't want concrete to be all over that property. I want to activate it with people, with outside space, with event space, and you'll make a lot more money if you build a building and to take up all that space and don't leave any green space. Walk around most of my properties, and I've got gardens and permaculture, and we grow berries and fruits, and that's what I want on that corner. I don't want concrete garage deck and
we're tearing
buildings.
We're tearing down a deck right now. Who owns that property of Belmead?
City.
The city owns it.
Yeah.
What's going back there?
There's talk about it.
It's talk that Odell's slim and trim and good looking too.
Well, but that's the truth.
Okay, there you go. My man.
No, right now, Odell, is a very tough time to look at new projects. Again, let's just mention one more time the cost of construction, the materials, the people, the labor. And then I think we're living in apprehensive times right now.
So,
Slightly.
yeah, so you say good statement. So you're saying the uncertainty is not a friend of developers.
I don't think it is. I don't think it's a friend of anybody's right now. You don't have to be a developer to wonder, where's my 401k gone to? And on and on and on. But I'm ready to stick my you-know-what tail out there.
Well, you go ahead and stick your you-know-what tail out there. Dori, since he's sticking his tail out there, you are with the Community Connectors, and I think that program comes out of the Office of Community Engagement, and my understanding is it dealing with families on the east side, the police department, families, empowering families to have a voice. But one thing we do understand, at least I think we understand, is that per capita income helps everybody. And if there's no jobs in downtown Greensboro, it affects everyone. So, Dori, tell the audience the good work you're doing and how Andy's success helps you in your success.
Well, the success of downtown, it raises everyone's level. So when we, as the connectors, go in to an area, we started to cut crime, was like how do we stop crime? We have morphed into more of a how do we build community? How do we connect community, for lack of, how do we work with the people that live in Old Ashboro, the people that live in Warnersville, to raise their ability to speak for themselves, advocate for themselves, advocate for new sidewalks, empower them to speak what they need to city council. And we've seen a lot of success with that. And we're working in the schools because you have to start with the little ones. So we're working in the schools to bring in STEM stuff, to expose these kids to the opportunities that they have and expose them to where they can go for employment, eventually the opportunities that they have to not necessarily have to do a 4-year degree, but to do, an apprentice program to come out with a job that's well paid. Because I think these beautiful, wonderful old neighborhoods tend to get overlooked because they don't have the good sidewalks. They're blighted. And so they get overlooked, but they still have wonderful, amazing people that live there, that have lived there for years and deserve a grocery store or deserve, whatever's happening. And I think that's, we've all heard it in city council meetings, in whatever. When are we getting a grocery store? Why can't you get us a grocery store?
Who's the we, though? Whose responsibility is it for a grocery store? I was talking to Councilwoman Hightower about the Piggly Wiggly, and she said, Odell, I've been hearing about the Piggly Wiggly for a long time. Help me, Dori, on the Piggly Wiggly. Help me, Andy, on the Piggly Wiggly, because we've heard about that for a long time. I was talking to the Maverick the other day, Mark Cotis, and he pulled the plug on what he was trying to do with Publix. So obviously that beautiful 3-story high Publix is not as simple as one thinks. But to Dori's point, yes, the community needs it. However, if the community is doing what Andy says, it doesn't pencil out, if it doesn't make money or make sense, the Piggly Wigglies of the world and the stores of the world are not in the charity, because we all know Chick-fil-A is not coming to the poor side of town. We know that. Chick-fil-A just ain't, they ain't going to do it. Now, they love God. They just talk about they don't work on Sundays, but they ain't coming on the poor part of town because they're not missions.
Also, look at how much they pay their people.
They're not missions. They don't pay them on the poor part of town.
So
they're high black folk, but they ain't coming to the black part of town. Not Chick-fil-A. Because ain't no Chick. It ain't Chick for barbecue. It's Chick-fil-A.
If I may just address the grocery store issue, because it's at the top of people's minds who live in Old Ashboro and the surrounding area. First of all, a food desert constitutes that there's no grocery store within 1 mile of that neighborhood. There's a food line 1.4 miles, I believe, or it could be 1.6. And it's on the bus route, although still not as convenient as it could be, but it's either 1.4 or 1.6 miles down Eugene Street. As I said before, the grocery stores have a strict criteria. Lidl sat on that opportunity for 3 years, tied up the property, and then didn't move forward with it while they closed, I think it was 16 locations in the year that they backed out. One of them was never even opened up in Eden, North Carolina, and actually a church moved into the space. And the town said, wait a minute, you were giving us a grocery store. What are you doing?
Who was the you, though? Back to my question.
Lidl.
Who was the you who was given the grocery store?
Who is
Lidl in Eden.
Lidl in Eden.
That built the building, but
Okay,
never
they built the building. They never did, because Lidl just opened up, for lack of a better term, on my side of town, off of Piscaturs, Battleground, Lawndale.
It looks busy there.
Yeah, it is. I pass it every day.
Yeah.
I go walk 5-something in the morning, and it's always busy, and it's giving Fresh Market a run for their money. But those are premier places. But it is a food line over there.
And Lidl said they are not going to be opening up anytime soon in any city in North Carolina. So their model,
what North Carolina do to piss them off?
I think it's, the grocery store model. Yeah. It's a very, very, very low margin business. High volume, low margin. And then you add all the competition around you. It doesn't make for a very stable, it's a battle. And at any rate, I'm going to go back to Old Ashboro, which a lot of people are upset with the city because they think the city promised them a grocery store. The city hasn't delivered and hasn't communicated well. But bottom line, it's the grocery stores that are saying, I'm sorry, it just doesn't pencil out. And let me take it one more step, and then I'm going to go to the space that's right across from A&T University, Bailey Village. But there are 2 other properties right behind the property that I want to develop on Eugene Street that needs to be transformed. I am going to be working with the city this week because I might have identified a group that would like to develop those 2 properties on Eugene Street. It's a 5-lane road. There's a turning lane in the middle. There's 4 lanes. Elm Street, where the Lidl or they want a grocery store, is 2 lanes. It's not going to be pretty. The traffic, it's not designed well for grocery store traffic. It's 8 in the morning, 5 at night, and then other events on the side. But at any rate, the Redevelopment Commission, which owns the property that I'm trying to buy, also owns the property on Eugene, and they can market that for a grocery store.
Explain to us, and maybe Dori, I think I know, but that's what get me in trouble, according to my wife. What's the Redevelopment Committee? Explain that to Commission. Explain that to our audience, please.
Well, the Redevelopment Commission tries to find developers that will develop properties that have either been sitting or they have environmental problems. This one had environmental problems, still does have some, but it can be solved. So it's inventory of properties that the city has collected that this group manages trying to develop it. It is antiquated, and most cities have gone to economic development being in charge of these properties instead of the redevelopment commissions. I think we have 12 left in North Carolina, redevelopment commissions. But I'm going to go over to Bailey Village, which is right across the street from A&T University. My humble opinion, I think it's one of the nicest apartment complexes in Greensboro, if not the nicest. They really did a top-notch job. And that was so needed. I mean, grad students and professors, and where else are you going? In East Greensboro, Bailey Village. They graded a parking lot specifically with a grocery store in mind. I was on Chancellor Martin's Board of Visitors and Advisors. And I remember the first time Chancellor Martin called me up, Andy, I want to meet with you. I want you to do some development on our side of town. And I want you to put a forge there, or I want you to put, I'm like, Harold, it's 1 mile from your campus. I'm not putting a forge there. I'm not. And he was asking me to develop, which I did. I did different things in East Greensboro with Studio 503 and the artist studio spaces. But they graded and they put all the utilities there. It doesn't have an environmental problem like it does on Gate City Boulevard and Elm. They got how many students and then people all around in East Greensboro that would shop there. The grocery store was a little bit further away. The Food Lion down Market Street, I think it was 1.8 miles. Mm-hmm. And there is enough heads and beds, although grocery stores don't think so, because everyone you could ever think of has been courted to go on that property, and the House of Prayer owns it.
Right.
They don't need any money, but they were giving incentives, and grocery stores said, I'm sorry, it just doesn't work. Now, with that said, my good friend, well, I can't say who now. There is somebody at the table that might make a deal and have a grocery store there, which would be unbelievable. Across the street from A&T and downtown, close to downtown.
Yeah.
Dori, do you remember the one that was off of, it failed. It was almost, I forgot.
It was a co-op.
It was a co-op.
It just Phillips.
Yeah, but before it was a co-op, it was something else, and that fell through, and folks said, well, we'll just turn it into a co-op.
Yep.
And that failed also. And a lot of people put hundreds of $1,000s into that to try to stand it up, but it still didn't work.
Yeah.
If you want to go to a grocery store, a co-op it wasn't the right model for there.
I don't disagree, and it just boils down to one thing. The food was too expensive there for the neighborhood.
Right.
There's a co-op downtown. It's called
Deep Roots.
Deep Roots.
And
it's
that's
very nice. It's boutique. It's small. They don't buy enough volume to get.
It's bougie. It's bougie boo.
Well, it's vegetarian. It's earthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's a beautiful grocery store. They have great food, but it's more expensive than your average person.
It's very limited.
And very limited.
They have no buying power.
And what frustrates me with the whole grocery store thing, and you talked about Lidl's not going to open anymore. It's like, okay, I don't play golf. And I really can't hit a golf ball, but I could hit a golf ball between the Aldi on Battleground, the Lidl on Pisgah Church, the Fresh Market there. Yeah. It's like, okay, Lidl, why you're saying you don't have enough business or whatever? You don't want to be within another mile of grocery store. Yet lame golfer me can hit a golf ball between Lidl and Fresh Market.
Well, and that's they're asking people to make a choice to have brand loyalty. Look, you could go to Food Lion if you're loyal. You could go to Fresh Market if you're loyal.
But it's all in West Greensboro. And I can have over here, I can have my pick of a grocery store and I can walk to it.
And you could also do the demographics of the 5-mile radius and see how many people live in that radius and what's their income levels and what's the density. Yeah. And those are the decisions that are based on, that's what grocery stores base their decisions.
Somebody needs to say to one grocery store, you do understand you will be the grocery store. The people over there will make sure.
They won't because, like I said, the neighborhood, Old Ashboro, you can go 1.2 or 4 miles and go to a Food Lion. So
they're not happy with that, or what's the issue with?
People want closer.
So
people want closer. I don't have a car. I'm on a fixed budget. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, and some of them are legitimate and some of them aren't. But, the reason why it's all around Battleground and you got all these choices because you got plenty of density, plenty of money.
Right.
Per capita income's a whole lot better. But we could throw, as we move toward close, but we could throw something else in there. When you look at healthcare facilities, you all know I'm had the pleasure of leading up a super developer, Mount Zion Development Company. All right, so we've partnered with bringing in can't say it yet, but close to a 40,000 square foot ambulatory care medical office building. I was presenting the other day, and the gentleman said, "You know what, Odell?" And I said, "What?" "I already know I'm good looking." And he said, No. You know what, Odell?" He said, "It hasn't been a major medical office building in East Greensboro for my audience, the black part of town, since L. Richardson." Mm-hmm. And I'm like, "What?" He said, "No, since L. Richardson Hospital was built in the early 60s, and I think L. Richardson went out of business. I don't know." It said, "It hasn't been. It has. How can you not?" To your point about, supermarkets, and over where we all live, it's medical facilities fighting building Taj Mahals. And I don't think it's just a race thing. I think it's an economics thing too.
Oh, yeah. It's
I think it's about,
economic.
must be the money. You know, it reminds me of President Trump's, before he was president, he was Trump's theme song, "Must Be the Money," when it was, what was it? The Apprentice. That was the song, "Must Be the Money." So it's all about the money, Andy. You have more money than Jesus, Andy. What is it about money? And I look at you, nothing against you, but you're not flashy. You don't ride around in a Rolls Royce. You ride around in a hoopty, man. What's wrong with you, Andy? You got more money than Jesus and you're riding around in a hoopty. Why, sir?
Now, first of all, you said you were good looking. I agree with that. I don't have more money than Jesus.
Okay.
That's
All right.
number one. And if I did, boy, could I do some good with that money.
Okay.
For me, Odell, it is not about the money now. Although, sure, you got to look at dollars and cents.
Yes,
and,
sir.
make sure that I can live in a decent lifestyle, for the rest of my life. But it's not ROI. It's ROC.
Explain, please.
ROC is return on community.
Wow.
And I think that gives me more pleasure than spending money on myself. Yeah. And, been there, done that with cars. And now I drive a 4Runner that's got 290,000 miles on it. And I'm happy. It runs great.
And mud on the
starts every
tires.
Well, that's me. I got mud everywhere. But, money can't drive everything, but it drives most things.
Dori, now your Tesla. Dori took me, for those who don't know, Dori has this fancy dancy Teslas with the wings and everything, a red Tesla. And she says, "Odell," when she first bought it a couple years ago, "Do you want to test ride?" I'm like, "Sure." I had no idea what I was getting myself into. That Tesla is like a computer that's on steroids. I mean, she hit that thing and it's almost like you turning up the volume on a computer system. That car just took off. And Dori had the good looking black guy holding on for his life. And she's just sitting there smiling like it's nothing to it.
Yeah.
And your question about my beautiful car?
Is the whole thing, as much as you care about the least of these, because you care, and you ask the question, and you're an advocate for those who don't have. But to Andy's point and others, downtown Greensboro have to be safe. Downtown Greensboro we have what we call panhandlers from time to time. Sometimes the panhandlers a couple years ago got very aggressive, and people were afraid to come downtown. So how do you feel about downtown as a female going downtown shopping? Do you feel safe? And do you feel safe during the daytime, during nighttime? Will you go shopping downtown by yourself in your fancy dancy Tesla?
I am not a scaredy cat at heart, and so I feel safe downtown. I don't see a ghost around every corner or a mugger around, in every door frame. I'm kind of fearless in that sense. I'm going to go where I want to go. It is interesting to me. Many conversations, moving pieces. The whole country is dealing with a displaced, unhoused population that just growing. And so there's not a lot of, there is land downtown, but there's not a ton of it. But there is a lot of land around Greensboro, in the surrounding areas. And I would have a dream of creating, in Texas, there's a community of tiny houses that's for unhoused people, and it's developed into this whole neighborhood, and the buses run out there, and they have gardens, and they have farmers markets all on this property for people that need a place to live, and they work. It's kind of a community. It's kind of a work to live.
Yep.
Live to work kind of thing. And I think that's such an amazing concept that would be like, if I could win the lottery or had more money than Jesus, I would do that. I would find some place to do that.
And there's talk of that. I must say, as being a part of downtown for 13, 14 years now and doing a lot of development work, that we've made a lot of headway.
Mm-hmm.
Explain.
Well, number one, you don't see the panhandling out there like you did before. It was unsafe. You'd see somebody standing on a concrete island with traffic on both sides going the opposite ways, and somebody waiting for the light to turn red and start asking for money. It was unsafe. Mm-hmm. It's unsightly. It's not the right environment. If I help somebody, I don't want to help them by just giving them money, because that's a quick little fix. Maybe that is the next meal they need, but I'd rather say, you go to this restaurant and I'm paying for your food. I don't want somebody drinking that money or smoking that money, whatever some of the unhoused population, some of any population might do. But we've made headway with panhandling. We've made headway with the unhoused. Small, not big enough yet, but you're seeing a lot less of the unsightliness of the homeless, and we're trying to provide better spaces. The IRC had bad leadership. They announced a new leader now.
You've said that from day one. Now, you've not backed off of that. Your thing was the IRC just had bad leadership.
They did. They finally, the lady got caught for stealing at, 3 different times. What are you talking about? Does that show good leadership? They needed to oust her a long time ago. The IRC and the board have gotten their act together. And they're good neighbors. You know my friend Philip Marsh?
Yes.
He lost his main tenant because of the IRC and what was going on over there. The drugs that were being dealt there, the heads from the police turning their heads the other way, the trash outside the place. It was bad leadership and bad neighbors, and they weren't doing the mission that they were set out to do in the first place. Give good place for these people to come and do their laundry and have internet access and have a mailbox, have a shower. Mm-hmm. This place every day provides a place for an unhoused person to take a shower, to connect on the internet, to get mail, to send mail. It's an incredible asset, and it was just being run poorly.
Got it.
And we waited too long as a city, giving them $500,000 or more in support every year, and we didn't hold them accountable. That's called bad leadership.
I think that there needs to be a way. I was on Battleground the other day and went through an intersection, and there was a gentleman standing in the median with a sign, and he had his dog with him. And I just think that's so sweet. I love my dog. You love your dog. It's just, I think that there should be a way that businesses that are in the city of Greensboro, it's kind of like you're getting this, you have this successful business in West Greensboro, so donate a day, like a vet, donate a day to go to the IRC to help them with their pets. Donate, a successful, I'm back to the grocery store thing, but a successful grocery store, create a space in downtown Greensboro that is maybe a mishmash of grocery stores, but give back. You're successful. There's a lot of successful developers in Greensboro that want to build big, fancy, amazing things. And it's like, okay, you want to build this great, big, huge thing over here? Contribute something to building this over here. It's got to be a give and a take. Not a give and a take, but a give and a give.
In Mount Zion,
what they're doing is amazing.
What would you ask of your member to give to charity? Like I hear other, religions, you should give 10%.
Right. What we do have a 10%. We have 10% of everything that comes in tithes and offerings, and we give it back out to the community in the form of maybe gas, maybe helping people stay employed. We just finished up one now with people who were stuck in this payday loan type situation or rent to own loans. How, we went on to pay those off, but it's more of a hand up, not a hand out.
Yeah.
And that's what Mount Zion does.
And that's the church giving back 10% of what the members of the church give to the church. So that's tithing on tithing.
How do you think you're doing you're hitting a good number of members that are giving that 10%?
I wouldn't, of course, it's not 100%. I think it's probably close to 40% who's give it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people give contributions, and we're thankful for everything.
Yeah.
However, when you start looking at the church or the mosque or the temple or the synagogue, those are only the few places that you can be a member without membership fees. Right. When you think about it. And
the temple has a membership fee.
Yeah.
The temple? But if you don't pay it, they're not going to kick you out.
You can't participate in certain
things. You don't get tickets to high holy holidays.
Okay, I got to talk to the rabbis. I need to talk to the rabbis.
I mean, they've got to preserve the amount of space they've got for the people that are giving.
Wow, that's interesting.
But no, they're not going to turn away somebody.
Exactly. They call me rabbi, so I'm not Sammy Davis Jr., but Sammy Davis Jr. was black and he was Jewish. Yeah. I'm black and good looking. I'm not Jewish. But let me ask you a question though. We have a big race coming up. We have a big race, city council mayoral race. A lot's going to happen. What does your crystal ball say on what's coming? And are you polishing your crystal ball with $1 bills or $100 bills, sir?
I think it's my business to support people that serve on the city council. And I think it's my business to support our mayor. And you are not going to find me committing to anybody.
Okay.
You're going to find me committing to everybody.
So you give them,
as long as they are reasonable in their approaches and their heart's in the right place and they want to do good in Greensboro. Because serving, let's just take the city council.
Yes.
And how much people have to give of themselves to serve on the city council for little to almost nothing. So they've got a drive to give back. I think they've got genuine motivation to make our city a better place.
So we're going to have a new mayor because Nancy's not running. Correct. We're going to have 2 or 3 seats. You have the fact that Yvonne Johnson's seat that's being is not her seat, excuse me.
Jamila's going to run again.
Right, Jamila's going to run again, and everybody and their mama going to run again, sir.
Yep.
Who else?
Hughes running again.
Hughes running again, but I'm just thinking about who's not going to be there.
Nancy
Goldie
Hoffman's
Wells, Nancy Hoffman. That's a lot of people.
Nancy, Goldie, we're missing one more. that's retiring. Well, I guess Yvonne's seat's coming open again.
Yvonne, Nancy, Goldie, and
Well, Nancy and Nancy.
If Mary Kay
and Mary Kay.
doesn't win
the
mayoral race, then that seat will be empty too.
So she can't keep her seat while she runs?
Well,
oh, wow.
If she loses the mayor race, she's not running for city council at the same time.
But essentially, her at-large seat is vacated because she's running for mayor.
That's correct.
Well,
so there will be new,
a lot of new blood.
Hugh is
if Mary
reelected
Kay
again,
loses.
new blood like a Dori Goebel blood?
No, don't put that out there.
Put what out there? Vote for Dori. Vote for Dori. Dori.
I am not running. If Hugh runs again,
he's going to run.
Right. But so Hugh, Jamila hasn't been on very long. So essentially she is, a new seat. But
everybody is because they've got to run again.
I mean, Tammy's running again. Zach's running again. Hugh's running again.
Now, Zach's a lock. I know some people coming after Zach's seat, but on that, I'm not endorsing Zach at this time or will not. But Zach's going to be hard to beat. Not that he can't be beat, but Zach is going to be hard to beat.
Right.
So that one's, if I had to bet, and I'm not a betting man, I would say Zach is going to be there. But go ahead.
Well, I'm just talking about, obviously everybody's running, but there could be three or four
open seats, new leadership.
Right. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 that are not. Yeah. So 4 of the 5. Obviously, all the seats are open. We could have new everybody. Leaves may be the downfall.
Well, Leaves, you're right, but it's interesting. I went to Harper's on Saturday. Me and Beverly went to dinner, and we went out to Harper's, and we went in, and I let Bev off in front of the restaurant, and I went to park the car. So I came in and saw her engaged, talking to someone. I'm like, well, I wonder who my wife talked to. Walk over there, and it was Shirley and Henry Fry.
Aww.
And gorgeous. She looks so good. They both look so good. They're just icons. And we were talking, and we talked about what we talked about. I said, I want to switch the subject. I said, well, you all endorsed Robbie Perkins. Why did you endorse him so early? And Shirley kind of turned and looked at me like, what do you mean? She's 91, gorgeous, but still got that fire. What do you mean, Odell? I said, well, what I mean is usually you don't endorse someone that early. Why did you all endorse Robbie Perkins so early? And she says, because he's good and he's done good work and we've worked with him. That's different because Robbie Perkins is a very moderate Republican, and Shirley Henry Fry are hardcore Democrats. So now we're seeing this crossover. So it's not Democrats, Republicans like normal, because Greensboro is a Democratic city,
right.
And it's not that now. So to your point, it's going to be a little bit of lottie-dottie everybody, but I just want to make sure before we close out and give you all the last word, you're saying that good-looking Dori Goebel is not capital N, capital O, capital T, because I grew up on the dirt roads of South Carolina, and I didn't always get the best education. So what are you saying, Dori? Are you in or are you out?
I am out.
Well, you're a troublemaker today, Odell.
That's what we do. We find common ground. Sometimes you got to stir it up to do what we do.
You do.
A lot of it is I know myself. My passion is I love serving. I love being in this city, but I feel that I can do more good being able to freely serve where I want to serve, be on the community connectors, get out there and do what I want to do, and not be tied to having to decide,
politics.
Leaves, for God's sake.
You are, but you're not a Republican, you're not a Democrat, you are a
Unaffiliated, yes.
Right. And you're better than Bill. Okay, let me say, Bill's not coming back. Can we say that? We found a replacement for you, Goebel. Goebel, you've been fired. What's the Donald Trump song? What's that money, money, money? What's the name of that thing Trump used to do?
You're fired.
Yeah, the Apprentice. Yeah. Goebel, you're fired.
No, he's not.
After the first time that I was on the podcast, I was looking at Odell and having such a good time. And I said, Odell, what do you think about the Odell and Andy show?
I thought it sounds good.
Yeah. Boy, you ought to see Bill's face.
Yeah, but Bill can't put his face can't change when it's his lovely wife. Of how many years, Dori?
32.
Okay.
But, I just think, well, and also I know myself well enough. I would tell people, go, don't quit yapping at me about leaves. Just go mulch your leaves. It's not going to kill you.
You think one of the words would come out of your mouth?
Oh yeah. I would. You'd have to give me like a whole roll of duct tape and put it over my mouth before every meeting.
Andy, your thoughts, sir. You have millions of dollars invested in downtown Greensboro. You have years of investment all downtown, and you're still fighting. Why do you care so much about downtown Greensboro? You can move and live wherever you want to live.
Why do you care so much about your community of Mount Zion? Why do you care so much about your family? Why do you care? I mean, where you live and the people that you're around and the difference that you can make, those are all reasons why.
And why I care about East Greensboro, the black part of town, is because I've been in experiences in my life where the inequity has cost us. It's cost us a lot. In particular, when my mother was misdiagnosed going to the hospital when I was a little boy, and she had a stroke, and they sent her home saying it's not a stroke. So when people say, why are you so committed to this medical office building? I'm just trying to make sure other families didn't go through what I'm going through. So you get it. We all have a why. So, Dori, you're going to close the show out since you're not going to fire your husband. I tried, but you're not going to fire your husband.
I promise.
What's your closing remarks, Dori?
I was happy to sit in. It was fun, but I'm probably one and done. Bill might fire me.
No, you're not. No, you're not, Dori.
Okay.
Say it ain't so.
I think that Greensboro is an amazing place to live. I used to joke around half seriously. Don't build the wall down against Mexico. Build it around Greensboro because I don't want any more people coming here because we get, it's lovely to be able to get anywhere in about 10 or 15 minutes. And that's going to change if too many more people come. But I believe that there are many people, good people, that have a lot of good, passionate things and ways to serve Greensboro and help Greensboro. And I think that we will, whatever happens in the big race coming up, it will probably be very good for Greensboro.
Okay. Well, you heard it here. Again, thank you so much for tuning in today. And remember, if you're running for public office and if you need a place for advertising and all that kind of stuff, for a small fee, come see me. For a small fee, come see me. We will develop your ad for you. We will run your ad. We will do all those things because there's nothing like spending money finding common ground. Thank you.
Find Bill and Odell online at thecommonground.show. This podcast is a production of BG Ad Group. All rights reserved.
Attention men, here's an important new podcast you need to be listening to.
So this whole issue about prostate and prostate health and all the challenges and that we're having with it, but no one's talking. So that's the reason why I started this podcast, so we can talk, so we can get an understanding. I understand I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical individual. I'm just an ordinary, normal guy. who had some issues to say, hey, let's talk about this thing.
P is for prostate with Odell Cleveland. Download anytime where you get your podcasts. And join for the full podcast at www.patreon.com/Odell Cleveland.
Whether you're a big, medium, or small business, managing and growing the bottom line is important. Focus CFO brings the experience and financial acumen of a Fortune 100 Chief Financial Officer to your company at a fraction of the cost. P&L help, internal reporting processes, or any business transitions or events. Focus CFO will help you and your team have a CFO in your company's back pocket. Focus CFO. Learn more at focuscfo.com.